Chapter 1. The Silent Smile. 297 words. The 7:15 a.m. express train was Noah's sanctuary of quiet before the storm of the day. It was a 40-minute slice of time sandwiched between his small, cluttered apartment and his demanding graphic design job in the city. He'd usually spend it with his headphones on, sketching in his pad or just watching the world blur past the window. His sanctuary gained a new feature about 3 months ago: the man in the crisp blue shirt. Noah first noticed him because of the book. While everyone else was glued to their phones, this man was always reading a physical book, his finger tracing the lines as he read. He had warm, kind eyes and a calm demeanor that stood out against the usual train car anxiety. One rainy Tuesday, as the train jolted, Noah's coffee cup slipped from his hand. The lid popped off, and a small wave of lukewarm coffee splashed across the floor, just touching the polished leather shoe of the man in the blue shirt. Noah's face flushed crimson. "I am so sorry." The man looked up from his book, not with annoyance, but with a gentle smile. "It's quite all right. It's just coffee and just a shoe." He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket, an actual cloth handkerchief, and dabbed at the tiny drop on his toe. Flustered, Noah tried to clean the larger mess with napkins. When he looked up again, the man was still smiling. It wasn't a polite, tight smile. It was genuine, reaching his eyes. Noah offered a shaky, embarrassed smile back. The next day, when Noah boarded, the man was already there. Their eyes met. A silent, mutual recognition. And he smiled again. Noah smiled back. And so, a ritual was born. A daily exchange of silent smiles from across the aisle. It was a tiny, wordless hello that somehow became the brightest part of Noah's commute. Chapter 2. The first word, 312 words. The silent smiles continued for weeks. They became a touchstone for Noah. A bad morning could be redeemed by that simple, quiet connection. He found himself wondering about the man. What was his name? What did he do that required such sharp shirts but allowed him to read books on the train? One morning, the man's usual seat was empty. A strange sense of disappointment settled in Noah's stomach. The commute felt longer, grayer. He realized how much he'd come to rely on that moment of silent camaraderie. The next day, when Noah boarded, his heart gave a little leap. There he was, back in his seat, but he was hunched over, looking pale and clutching a tissue. Noah's worry overrode his shyness. He slid into the empty seat beside him, something he'd never dared to do before. "Hey," Noah said softly. "Are you okay?" The man looked up, surprised. His eyes were watery. "Oh, hello. Yes, just a dreadful head cold. I thought I could power through, but—" He trailed off into a slight cough. "I'm sorry," Noah said. "I'm Noah, by the way." "Elias," the man replied, his voice raspy but his smile warm. "It's nice to finally put a name to the smile." Noah beamed. "Yeah, you too." He rummaged in his bag and pulled out a small, unopened bottle of water. "Here, it's not much, but it might help." Elias looked genuinely touched. "That's very kind of you. Thank you, Noah." They didn't talk much more that day. Elias was too tired, but the barrier was broken. The next day, Elias was feeling better and carried 2 takeaway cups of tea. He handed one to Noah as he sat down. "Thank you for the water," Elias said. "You didn't have to do that," Noah said, taking the warm cup. "I wanted to," Elias replied simply. And just like that, the silent smiles turned into quiet conversations. Chapter 3. The unspoken truth, 315 words. Their conversations became the new ritual. They talked about everything and nothing. Their frustrating bosses, the books Elias was reading, the art Noah was designing. Noah learned Elias was an archivist at a museum, which explained his calm, precise nature. Elias learned Noah dreamed of starting his own freelance design business. Noah found himself laughing more. Elias had a dry, witty sense of humor that delighted him. He started looking forward to the 7:15 train with an eagerness he usually reserved for weekends. But with the growing closeness came a familiar anxiety for Noah. He was out to his friends, but not to his family. Their traditional expectations were a constant pressure in the back of his mind. He'd never brought a boyfriend home, afraid of the disappointment he might see in his parents' eyes. He noticed Elias never mentioned dating either. There were no stories of exes or current partners. It was a blank space in their otherwise growing map of each other. One evening, on the homebound train, they were talking about a friend of Noah's who was getting married. "My mom keeps asking when it'll be my turn," Noah said with a sigh, looking out the window. "She's already picking out china patterns for a future daughter-in-law that doesn't exist." Elias was quiet for a moment. "I understand that pressure," he said softly. "My father still asks me when I'm going to find a nice girl and settle down. He thinks my job at the museum is just a phase before I get a real career and start a family." Noah's breath caught in his throat. He turned to look at Elias. The unspoken truth hung in the air between them, fragile and immense. Elias held his gaze, his expression a mixture of vulnerability and hope. Noah gave a small, understanding nod. "Yeah," he whispered. "It's hard." In that moment, without a single explicit word, they both knew. The bond between them tightened, transforming from friendship into something filled with potential and shared understanding. Chapter 4. The Risk. 320 words. A new layer of gentle tension existed after that conversation. A hopeful, nervous energy hummed between them. Their chats became softer, their smiles shyer. Noah knew he wanted to ask Elias out, properly, but the fear was paralyzing. What if he'd misread the situation? What if Elias was just being friendly? He could ruin the best part of his day. For a week, he rehearsed the question in his head, but his courage always failed him the moment he saw Elias's kind face. Finally, on a Friday, as their train pulled into the city station, Noah knew it was now or never. His stop was first. His heart hammered against his ribs. "Well, this is me," he said, standing up and slinging his bag over his shoulder. Elias looked up at him. "Have a good day, Noah." Noah took a deep breath. "Elias, I was wondering, if you're not busy this weekend, maybe you'd like to get a coffee. With me. Not on the train, I mean. Like, at an actual cafe. As a date?" The words tumbled out in a rushed, awkward heap. He braced for rejection. Elias's face went through a series of emotions. Surprise, contemplation, and then a beautiful, radiant smile that lit up his whole face. "I would like that very much," he said, his voice steady and warm. "I was hoping you'd ask." Noah's anxiety melted into pure, unadulterated joy. "Really? Really?" Elias confirmed. "Text me the details?" "Yes, absolutely," Noah said, beaming. He practically floated off the train, turning to wave at Elias through the window before the doors closed. Elias waved back, still smiling. That weekend, their coffee date lasted 3 hours. Then they went for a walk in the park. They talked without the fear of a train stop interrupting them. They held hands tentatively on a quiet bench, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Chapter 5. The View from Here, 256 words. Months later, on a sunny Saturday morning, they weren't on a train. They were on Noah's small apartment balcony, sharing a breakfast of toast and fruit. Elias was reading aloud from a newspaper article he found amusing. Noah watched him, his heart full. He thought about the long, hesitant journey from silent smiles to this comfortable, loving silence. "What are you thinking about?" Elias asked, putting the paper down. "About us," Noah said. "About the train. I was so scared to talk to you that first time." Elias reached over and laced his fingers through Noah's. "I was too. I'd noticed you for months before the coffee incident. I thought you were the most interesting person on that train." Noah laughed. "I was just a mess with a sketchbook. You were my mess with a sketchbook," Elias corrected gently. "And you still are." It hadn't all been easy. Noah was still working on telling his family, and Elias was patiently supporting him through it. Society's judgment sometimes felt like a distant rumble, a storm on the horizon, but together they felt strong enough to face it. Their love wasn't a dramatic, sweeping epic. It was built slowly, patiently, one smile, one word, one shared commute at a time. It was found in the quiet, ordinary moments, and that's what made it extraordinary. It was proof that sometimes the most beautiful journeys don't take you to a new place, but they help you find your way to the right person, offering a beautiful new view from the very same window.